not this one.
No, okay, sorry.
Okay, it was that one. Oh, it's all right. It's my fault. Okay. All right.
And Bill brought me in.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Yes. I lived in Mudkin.
You were Mudkin resident?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, John, I'm ready.
Inner circle.
Okay, so we're going to have to speak up. So, my name is John Statler, and I was introduced to Bishops by my brother, who was in high school, and his English teacher hung out with the collectors in Hayward and knew about this one. And I showed up there with my brother, and I had a hot mulled cider, and I was hooked. And a character that I like from the Bishops, my favorite one, there was a dark-skinned man who came in, and that was a little unusual for Bishops. And he saw the piano by the stage, and he said, "Is it okay if I play that?" And he sat down and started playing it and loved it. He came in every night for months, and then he started at the junior college, took classes, and became a professional musician. So that's just like, that piano more than paid for itself.
What a great
Just
story.
right there.
Yay.
So that's my,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's great.
Okay, Gardner.
I'm Gardner, and what's next?
How were you introduced to Bishop?
Oh, I don't remember how I was introduced. I was part of the Bishop's group, and we decided to start the thing going. And what else do you
Do you remember anybody from it?
Bishops? Somebody necessarily, not somebody you're close to, but somebody who you remember as character.
Favorite character? Oh, there were so many.
I know.
But I can't remember names.
No, don't worry
Right.
about the name. Just
No.
describe the.
Not all of us have the memory we
Let's
used to
see.
have.
No kidding. Oh, my God.
Oh, God. Sheila, you gotta help me. See, this is my problem. I can't remember stuff.
Right, exactly.
That's okay, Gardner.
Not all of our brains work the same. It's okay.
We all forget stuff.
That's
Time
right.
goes on.
Remember Freddie, Gardner? Remember Freddie?
I do, but I can't remember who was Freddie.
They tried to kill us one night. Just high on Reds, came over and
Oh boy,
anyway, that was
that was a good memory. That was
an unusual character.
Yeah, there were a lot of really nifty people.
What happened
at the
with
place.
the story about the person who tried to kill him? I don't know. Obviously, they didn't succeed because they're here. He didn't succeed. Yeah.
If we have crosstalk, it's not going to pick it up very well. So, start
Go ahead, Sheila.
I'm Sheila Fried, and I was introduced to Bishop's Coffeehouse by my husband Gardner back in 1972. And the character I remember was Freddie, because he left a distinct memory.
Yeah, this. Wow. This is Freddie.
you did it. Name, how you were introduced, and a favorite character. Have you got a moment with Freddie that sticks in your mind?
Scared the shit out of me. No,
Yeah,
nothing
you're pretty
other
scared.
than that, yeah.
Okay.
I'm Ruth, and I didn't get to visit the Bishops because I didn't meet Vern until many, many years after the Bishops ceased to exist.
I'm Vern Massey. I was part of the collectors community in Hayward, similar coffeehouse in Hayward. Went off to Vietnam and got out of the service. And before I got out of service, married Sue, who had been involved with the collectors and was involved with Bishops. So after I got out, we had no money, and we were hanging out at Bishops. And that's how I got connected with Bishops. And the character I'm thinking of was Mailman Bob. Bob was a mailman, and he'd come in, and on one of the nights I worked, we had East Bay Gay, and they would play the piano or put on music, and sometimes be dressed in drag. And one night, person was playing the piano, and Bob saw an attractive person and sat down next to him and her, and was kind of hitting on. And a young kid about 7 years old walked by and said, "Why is that man wearing a dress?" And Bob got up and walked out, and he didn't come back for about a week.
Okay, I am Anna, and I never went to the bishops. I met John later on, and we got married in 81.
Oh.
And so that's about my story about that.
So your favorite character is John.
Guy,
There you go. Yeah. I'm Julie Martinez, and I think I went to Bishop's, but my parents met there. And I spent a lot of time at Lincoln as a kid. And my favorite character is going to be my dad, Harold.
Who?
Harold.
Oh, her.
Oh, I'm John Sinorst. See, I was first introduced to the Bishop's Coffeehouse. I was single, divorced, moved into Oakland, didn't know anybody, and I attended a few sessions of the Methodist Church. And there, through the youth pastor, I found out about the place called the Bishop's Coffeehouse that was organized through the downtown Oakland Christian Parish. I went there a few times, kind of nervous, didn't know these people, and it was kind of liberal hippie element. At that time, I moved out here from South Dakota, so I didn't know too much about that. There was culture shock, but I fit in. And I started volunteering there on Wednesday nights, and people like Gardner were there, and Glenn, and Bill, and I, and that's kind of how I got into the whole Bishops thing. Characters, the main thing I remember about the Bishops were the Red Star Singers came in. And because I tended to have a short haircut and my beard was usually trimmed, they thought I was a cop. Well, they misspelled that because Red Star Singers were pretty liberal element. And,
Understatement.
but it was a fun time.
What year was that you started?
That, best I can remember, I think was about 1970. Because I was divorced in '69, and I think that's when I discovered pot, and there was kind of a haze around things.
Okay.
My name is Sam Bushell. I was never a bishop, but Harold Martinez was my father-in-law. Yes.
Turn around and face this way, and say your name.
I'm Cadence, right here.
And Harold was your grandfather.
Harold was your grandfather.
All right. Did you play with Harold a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a pretty cool guy.
Cool trains.
Huh?
He had electric train tracks.
Oh.
We would put them together and then put on the trains and push them around. Some of them were broken, which made it kind of hard, but we always found a way in a few trains to put on the tracks. Some of them, but none of them really actually worked because they weren't all electric. Well, they were meant to be with electric trains, but they're usually just like coaches, and you pretend that their remote is inside, making them move.
Uh-huh. All right. Thank you.
It was really fun.
All right.
Hi, I'm Lainey Wolf, and I was introduced to bishops by Bill Harris. I was actually introduced to Mugden by Bill Harris. I think I only went to bishops a very few times. I really wasn't involved in that activity at all. But I was real involved in all of the parties and the what did they call it when we all took our clothes off and ran through a party? Streaking. So I was one of the streakers at Mudhead. And so my characters, there was a I lived downstairs at Mudkin in the main school. First of all, somebody, maybe it was you.
Mine. It was mine.
Yeah.
Darrow's and then mine.
Okay. And they had one of those speaker things that's like on a boat. You know, so there's no real, it's just like an air.
Talking to.
Yes. And so somebody would talk to me before I knew that was there. That was fun. And then the other thing was one night Gary, what was Gary's name?
Hoover.
He had been living in the woods for like forever, and he had just come back, and nobody was listening to him when he knocked on the door, and it was like 3 a.m. So he came to the bedroom window, and I'm laying in my bedroom, and here is Gary's face with this hat on at the bedroom window, beating on the bedroom window. And I, it was Mudkin, so I did get up and let him in, but it was really interesting how he was trying to assure me that he was not dangerous when, in fact, the first moment that I saw him was this face in the window at 3 o'clock in the morning. So that's my character from the past. And I have no idea what year any of this happened.
Thank you. I'm sure I don't either.
Okay, Diane, you got to sit down. It's your turn.
Oh, well,
Here.
okay. So, here, somebody else wants to take this? Okay.
All right. I'm Diane Batilana, and I'm trying to recall when I actually got introduced to bishops. I'm sure I was still in high school, and it seems to me that there was a group of us that came to the bishops one night, and this had to be like, 68 or whatever, I don't know. Dates I forget. And I know that I was waited on by Harold. I still remember that evening in my mind's eye. And I became involved in the Coffeehouse and spent a lot of my time there. Every summer that I could, and if I was home from college, I was always there. Became a night manager, and I just loved the place. And I still have, my friends are still here. And the one character that I recall from those days was Jack Hope. Does anybody remember Jack Hope? Yes. I remember Jack would stand up on the stage and spout some limerick, and was it Anne? Anyway, somebody in the audience would go, "Oh, Jack!" Because they were really dirty lyrics, but they were hilarious. And I remember that. In fact, at one point, he was living up in Northern California, near Eureka. And I went out there one summer to stay for a little while, and I hung out, and his daughter was there, and we were running around the track, and it was a really enjoyable time. But yeah, he's the one character I remember, him and his limericks. I always wondered what happened to Jack. Okay.
All right.
I'm Gerhard Frostrom, and I was a night manager at Bishop's. Friday, Saturday nights. And I believe the first time I went into Bishop's is when I saw the notice that they were going to be hiring someone, and I thought, I live in the neighborhood, this would be perfect. And lo and behold, promising to have poetry nights. I was a creative writing major at Cal at that time. And candle making fast nights. I don't know which one of you people may have helped interview me, but subsequently the 3-page staff was Fred Schwartz, David Bennett, and myself, as far as I know. And these are indelible people in my memory. But for the person that is strongest in my recollection, along with Freddie, I had a part in that evening, as I recall. Maybe it was more than one evening. I might because Freddie was in that neighborhood. He lived in. But it had to be Bob Pollard, I think, because he was a regular feature. And I competed for the job with Bob Pollard. And it seems unfair, because he spent probably hundreds of nights there playing, and he had a repertoire and didn't quit. And he offered music. and I'm sure his own variety of some poetry. I don't know if he would have provided candle making like my sweetheart and I did during that period. But, you know, while I worked there, I took vacation and I went to Japan. And I hung out with a former night manager, Mike and Gwen, at the Language Institute of Japan in Odawara. And they were the perfect hosts, as I was a guest in the Institute, very classy place, along the classic part of the coastal areas, Tokugawa Road. And they made me appreciate the ukiyo. They were collectors and had been there collecting these prints, woodblock prints, and they were connoisseurs, and it was just a superb situation where they were supported by the government and large corporations in teaching Japanese. And it was a castle right where they were. It was really remarkable. So I prized that time. And I came back to a job at Bishops. So, anyway, lovely to be with you these years afterward, and the reunions have been very special. And I remember Harold very much. His being such a part in us continuing and having our first meeting as the ones done by the priceless stuff. Very proud. So, lovely to keep these memories alive.
Marge Bronston. I knew of Bishop. I really wasn't too involved, except I was living here. So, I don't really have too many characters, but I think there was a guy that, maybe he was French. He sold pies. So the pie man, I just think, I'm
Let's take a break and put the camera back to Diane.
Camera woman is here.
One of my good side, Diane.
Make sure that the red light's still going.
Okay, the red light's still there. Okay.
All your sides are good, Bill?
Yeah, sure.
That's
I love you too.
okay, Claudia.
Hi, I'm Claudia Harris, and I went to the Bishops because of Bill Harris. I met Bill at Mudkin Manor. We met in February of 1973, and we were married December of 1973. So we've been together almost 44 years.
Yay!
And it's really great to see all you guys. I think it's a very special thing. They always say you can choose your friends, you can't choose your family. And I think these are all pretty cool friends.
Yeah.
It proves that short hardships don't work.
And that's it.
Do you have a character?
No, because I didn't, I wasn't around the coffee shop a lot, just Bishops.
Bill Harris is a great character. Yes.
How about a character from...
Hello? It's got to be Glenn.
No, it was Dawn.
Oh, it's
all right.
Okay, sorry. But I was quite frightened of Dawn for a while.
Oh.
Those were my years when I was very self-conscious.
I could see. That's okay. I was too. I was.
But she liked me. I could tell she liked me. And so we did some things together once in a while.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm hard to see.
That's my dear. Nobody liked her.
It's your turn.
Oh, man. I'm Bill Harris. First time I went to Bishops was 70, I think. First person I met was Jack Hope.
Oh, good. You have a memory of Jack.
Jack was great. And then the next person, right after I came down, sat down at my table, and it was Harold.
Yes.
My kids. And the rest.
Sorry.
History. I love the place. I had a good time. I got roped into everything. Board of directors, working Wednesday nights with David Bennett for the senior meal program. It was a lot of fun. And my favorite character.
I think we should wait for the train.
Hold on. Wait till the train. We live between the tracks.
I like that it has a bell. That's pretty neat.
We don't live on the wrong side of the track, we live between them.
My favorite character. Boy, it's a long list. Probably David Bennett.
Oh,
When
yeah.
I think back about people that are interesting and hard to get to know, and he had to work at getting information. Found out he went to high school with Janis Joplin.
What?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
He
That's
did?
Port Arthur, Texas, absolutely. Oh. But, he wouldn't tell you. You had to drag information out of it.
I never knew that.
I got working on the senior meal program. They knocked me in. So I used to bring him Reese's peanut butter cups. I used to piss him off. Because he was always trying to lose weight, but I would show up on Wednesdays with a double pack of Reese's peanut butter cups for him. He'd go, oh, no. And he'd eat them.
Yeah.
So, anyway, it was great. It's been a big part of my life. It's been wonderful. This is better than family.
Yeah.
Believe me.
Okay, I'm Laura Peterman. I used to be Laura Derrick. And for those of you who don't know Tommy Derrick, this is him right here in the picture. He was one of the people who helped get the Coffeehouse put together. He worked with the churches and helped put that together. And then he disappeared. And most of you don't know him, but he was very good at doing that kind of stuff. I think my favorite character there would have been our daughter when she was about 2.5 or 3. I had a little teapot that she had at home. And when I went down there on Tuesday nights to work, sometimes I'd take her with me. And she'd walk up to people's tables and say, "You want tea?" And then she'd pour her pretend tea in their cup. And she's now almost 50 years old. She teaches high school. Her sons one of them is senior at USC Santa Cruz. The other one's a sophomore at Gun High School where she teaches. So if you've ever saw her before, when she was a little bitty, she's big now. And she's big, but she's a grown-up adult. And I think one of my other favorite characters was David Bennett. Like he said, it was hard to get to know, but he was very faithful to the task. Joe and I hired him to prepare the food for our wedding reception. Oh. And he said he had to stay up all night stirring and watching those beans. So he's one of my favorites too.
I'm Joe Peterman, and all of you people really mean a lot to me, because without the people that needed to be ministered to in Oakland, without you, there would have been no bishops and there would have been no Joe and Laura, because we met at a servant's training in June of '69, and we fell in love almost instantly, and we were married, just not to each other. And so it took a while to get that lined out and straightened out, but we really, that means a lot to us, because we feel that we would have never met if it hadn't been for the bishops. And I think Doug McClure was one of my favorite guys at the bishops. Hippie. He attended our wedding, and he had a big poncho on and a big straw hat. And my son Russell was really wanted to know who that hippie in the tree was. So
Russell was really upset because there was a hippie in the tree. Joe pointed out to him, that's your little buddy's
Doug Van de Car's uncle. Oh, all right. Then that made it all right.
Okay.
I legitimized him. But we're really happy that you guys are here today in our garden and home, and we like to have you hang out, visit with us.
Well, I think we should thank you for hosting us.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be here.
food you brought, and
Yes.
I do have some flower bulbs that I want to get rid of.
Okay.
And I also have some apples that Joe told me not to mention because they got worms and rotten spots on them, but I'm going to mention them
Just cut
anyway
through the
because
worms.
I don't know what to do with them if I don't throw them away. And if you want any succulents or anything,
Oh God,
I've
yes.
got a little hand a trowel that I can loan you and a bag to carry it off in because some of these succulents are way too crowded.
Okay.
So,
All right.
I have a girl, I'm going to share a story with you. She mentioned Bob Pollard.
I had one too.
You know he disappeared.
No,
Oh.
I remembered something of that.
I know why he disappeared. Because he had come to me. He was always loaning money. He never had any money. Remember?
Yeah.
He was broke all the time. And he came to me asking for money. And I gave him, I don't know, $2 or something. Not much. He says, I got to get out of town. He had agreed to do a drug deal with the Hells Angels.
Not a good idea.
No.
Not a good idea. And he got greedy, and they were looking for him, and he went back to, I think, Oklahoma.
Oh, that's a relief.
Well, I hope he made it out.
My story I don't know. Bob Pollard was a veteran.
Yes.
And he had 3 Purple Hearts. And I didn't, got a lot of this from Sue. And he had a habit that he would volunteer for Vietnam and then go AWOL. And he'd stay AWOL in the Bay Area partying until the MPs picked him up and shipped him off to Vietnam. And he performed fine there, but he did that for 3 tours.
Yeah.
Well, his last Purple Heart, he got because he was a musician. He was playing in the Special Forces NCO club, and he sang this song that I can't sing much of, but it starts out, "Chicken soldiers from the sky who would rather run than die." They didn't really appreciate that song a whole lot and threw him out the front window.
Oh.
And that's how he got his 3rd Purple Heart.
Wow.
if you'll buy
It's
that.
weird. A lot of people didn't know that a lot of us were veterans, or some of us were veterans.
Yeah, I think that's...
Vietnam veterans and stuff. And of course, we have Gardner, who's the consummate pilot beyond
That's
compare.
right.
It was the most fun in the whole world to work with on Wednesday nights. He and I served on the board of directors together. He was the president, I was the vice president. Problem is, I ended up doing your job maybe more than you did because you were always on.
I was out.
You were flying somewhere.
Oh, he did that.
Yeah,
On
yeah,
purpose.
yeah. On purpose. Thanks. And then there's another great incident that was this. Harold and I and Don Sink did this. This was pretty funny. These ladies came to the steering committee meeting. They needed some space for a party, and Laura Boyd. Remember Laura Boyd?
Yes.
She kind of sponsors them, right? It was the East Bay Gay Women's League.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as liberal as the East Bay was at that time, it still was tough for them to get a venue. So we went to all the DOCP. Finally, First Methodist coughed up with their hall, but they had conditions. So myself and Harold and Laura and Don Sink, who did the music, we had to be there for the whole thing. And it was really funny because I remember an incident where this gal came up and complained about us being there. And the lady who's head of the league, she said, don't, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here. So they're not gawking at you. And we didn't. We stayed in the back and everything. But that was an interesting time. Who would do that? And there was some other group that used to come around and try to get space. And they had a group of houses. Do you remember who they were?
Oh, yeah.
And they painted the houses purple.
Morehouse.
I went to some of their meetings.
Yeah.
Morehouse.
Morehouse.
Yeah, I lived on a street with them.
You did?
Yeah, they
Hamilton
Yeah,
Place.
Hamilton Place. It was very close to Bishop's.
Yeah.
And Vic Barranco was from Hawaii. He and Sue, right there on Harrison. They had houses right on Harrison and on Hamilton. 3 on Hamilton. Right on Harrison and on Hamilton. 3 on Hamilton.
Right.
Well, they had 2 or 3 on Harrison. 1 on Ashby, very prominently in Berkeley. They had a house there too, big Victorian.
Yeah, because
And for many years they painted purple, and they had Cadillacs. They traveled in Cadillacs, old big ones, purple and black limos, and they took turns wearing livery, dressing up as butlers and maids. And they would have parties. The next door house to where I live, was one of their houses.
He had Morehouse University in Lafayette, and the same thing. They and that didn't go over well in Lafayette.
Well, it had a checkered history, let's say, but it did survive for 15 years until they finally, somebody abated it.
They lasted 15 years.
I mean, they were out there a long time.
That's amazing.
I don't know what they were teaching. But I mean, their courses were something. If you went to them,
They tried to get space from us. We wouldn't.
You wouldn't go.
Well, they had interesting programs.
They did
but
have interesting
a lot of their stuff was based on the concept of carnival marks. They had a mark script that was their entry level, and you were regarded like a mark at a carny. And and they played tricks on you, and it was very much encounter group kind of stuff. They did hot seat, and various of the popular psychology movements.
Very nice.
And it was worthwhile. And they would post want lists where they'd say, this is what I want. And half the time, somebody could facilitate it within an hour. And that's how they lived. And they just helped each other. And it was a commune. And they had crafts and they partied.
Right.
I mean, it was not really well-off people, but they did have a certain culture. And there was the romance of Vic and Sue being in Hawaii a lot of times. And they'd come into town and go to one of their mansions. And of course, they'd be treated to Cadillac limos and people all in livery. And, they plausibly made it work because they practiced. And there were higher level courses, too. You had to pay for them. And they had wealthy people all through here and out to Lafayette that came. That place was buzzing for years and years and years. So it was an interesting matrix to be living among them and then come to Bishop's and see, how, the other half live, which is, hardworking social programs for the people, the meals programs, the gays, the living room. How about the halfway house people? They were around in evidence looking for, places to be. And we were receptive to a lot of those things. And that's not even half the programs. We had a lot of things that went through there. And the anti-war one, that's not a small thing for us who are vets. Some of us who were spent time in combat to no small extent. And to come back to that and be able to be part of that. And it shaped us ever since, some of us, because coming back to the Bay Area, which was a hotbed of both anti-war sentiment and previously, when I went to Vietnam, there was almost no anti-war movement. It started largely in Oakland, around those troop movement trains. And the spirit community, which is still, I think, the mainstay for Alameda County. If you look at all these things, I'm going afield of this, but you look at this stuff where Occupy, the people that were down around the Oakland City Hall were the faith community people saying, we're passive, we're witnesses to the seriousness of this, and we don't take with breaking windows or anything. And it was the faith community then that I think is also in evidence here to this minute, how we all were helping with that ministry, whether we were religious or not. It was still very socially valid at the time in downtown Oakland. There's an alternative bars, which we all knew. Because even as youth, we saw the blandishments of, and we had a sane place for this. Coffee, we all still all enjoy our coffee. Anyway, enough from me.
It was good.
Things, in touch. We had volunteers that went down to the Berkeley and were medics at Berkeley Free Clinic. We helped people who were injured in those demonstrations. Some people got freaked out when they got tear gassed. But, we did a lot of things. That we also you talked about the American Indian people that came. The incident I remember most was one gentleman came in, it may have been the gentleman you're talking to, came in and pulled up his shirt, and he said, "I have a cut." And he had a cut about this big. And we looked at it, and I got Don to come in to look at it, and it was a straight-in stab wound.
Oh.
And so we managed to get him to the hospital. It was one of our more exciting things. And we didn't always pick volunteers as good as we could have. I remember the one volunteer kept stealing our car. And even though we were, a drug program, we were not a trained drug program. As after I got trained, I found out how young and dumb and stupid we were, but we meant well. Basically, we had a volunteer who was an ex-con addict who was not in recovery, and then you shouldn't be surprised if they behave that way. But we had some, I know for me it was family down there.
Mm-hmm.
And being a night manager there and living at Mudkin, I still feel close to all of you.
Do you remember the applause? John should remember. You and son, put your fingers in your ear.
Oh, come on.
You remember? We were out in the hallway. Way to go!
Wait a minute, what are we talking about now?
Had a disagreement.
His wife.
Uh-huh.
And we went upstairs into our bedroom. And we were able to resolve the argument. And then we celebrated our success in resolving the argument.
And everybody listened and applauded.
They did.
I didn't see it was just John and I doing
We labeled it make-up sex, and now you hear that term on TV a lot. Is this anything like make-up sex? It's good.
Well, you know what I'd like to hear, since I'm assuming people are going to see some of this anyway, but they weren't able to attend your father's memorial service. So could you share a little bit about, I don't know, a story about you and him, or whatever you'd like to share?
Gosh, my dad. I could go on all day.
Louder.
I could go on all day about my dad. He was pretty amazing. One of my favorite memories as a kid is that I would get upset sometimes, and he generally took it in stride. He had a couple of puppets that he would put on his hands, and one was a duck with really long legs and fur, because it's a puppet, and one was kind of a goofy looking character, and he would put that on his hand without all the fingers, and that was Bozo. So Bozo and Ducky would talk to me when I was mad, because I didn't like to talk to my dad. I'm talking to you. And Bozo and Ducky would sit there and talk to me, and then explain everything that I was upset about to my dad. My dad would talk to them and express his, emote and empathize with them, and then they would turn to me and talk to me about what he had said. And it was just such a wise and funny and gentle thing to do. And then every now and then when I was in high school or college, I'd look back on that and go, Dad, did I really talk to those puppets? As if they were real. And he'd be like, yeah. And of course, now that I'm a parent, I very much admire it. I don't feel quite as embarrassed. But as a teenager, it was one of my more embarrassing memories, and just a lot of fun.
That's a wonderful story.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I think we all loved your dad.
And a hysterical
very deeply.
Halloween costume.
Very precious person.
I still think that picture that was at his memorial was John and me, because I remember the cape. I know that I had worn this cape, and it looked like a man, and I'm looking at this, and I'm going, is that me?
I was putting those
Oh, I remember
pictures
that
together.
now.
I remember it. I'm positive because, John's really easily recognizable, and so's your dad. And then I'm looking at this other person, and I'm going, "Is that me?" And I think it was.
I think it was. I found that picture and I was like, "Whoa, that woman's boobs!" It was my dad's Halloween costume. He was wearing overalls. And he must have had fake boobs.
Right.
And he had a thin shirt on, so they were sticking out. And then I was like, who are those men with them? And then I was looking and looking, and I went, wait a minute. I think it was a week. And I was like, I think that's Diane.
That's me. Yeah, he was one of my closest friends.
You know,
and I really miss him.
Me too.
Living at Mudkin, a lot of the parties we had were created because Harold wanted to have a party, and Dawn would use that as an excuse to clean the house. Usually behind that, there was a little house meeting, or sometimes over dinner or breakfast on Sunday morning, there'd be discussion. Hey, it's time to have a party, and Harold's always behind it, and Halloween parties in particular. And Dawn loved it because, let's get organized and clean the whole house, including the bathroom. So that was one way to get the rest of us to chip in some fashion.
Yeah, that's what I use. Parties to clean my house. I need to have a really big party because I have a really
Even though
big
she always
cleaning
didn't
to
stick
do.
around at the parties, so.
Just living at Lincoln was a party. Someone would drop in and play the piano, or someone would drop in and, I spent many times just laying in that room while someone would come in and play the piano, and I wouldn't have any idea who was out there. It was so wonderful, I didn't want them to stop, so I wouldn't go, invade this space. Or people would show up with their guitar. It just seemed like it was and I don't mean party drunk every night, I mean people gathering and doing things and having ideas and doing something constructive.
Always something exciting.
Serving community, right.
John shook up the whole house one day when someone's cat got in the chimney. And John thought it was a great idea to stick his hand up there and try to pull the cat out. Oh, yeah. He came back with a bloody stump, remember?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he was sorry. We had to take him in for something.
Oh, his hand, not the cat. Oh, jeez.
But John had blood. He was cut up.
How'd you get the cat out?
Yeah, so that was.
He had it out. No, he got it out.
No.
He got the cat out, but he suffered for it.
At great cost.
At great cost.
There was a lot of black soot around, and there was a lot of blood still running.
Yeah.
And Dawn looked at me and said, "You silly asshole, what were you thinking?" I don't know. But the cat got out.
Right, exactly.
Somebody wanted to start a fire to get the cat out.
And it wasn't one of our cats.
No.
Monster allowed another cat in the house?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. When I moved in with Goober, the dynamics changed because Goober was an aggressive female, and she hadn't been neutered or anything. And
Who got the dog? Somebody walked in with
Goober.
That was Goober, okay.
Yeah, the neighbor's dog.
Got the dog?
German Shepherd dog. German Shepherd.
You mean like?
Oh, yeah.
No,
The dog.
she cut him open, Diane. She cut his face open.
It was that guy
Really?
Across the
He
street.
was just wanting to borrow sugar.
Yeah, and he
Honestly.
apologized.
I didn't know. I opened it. I didn't see her. I didn't see my. She was a little kitty. She wasn't a very big cat. And I opened up the door and I didn't see her down there. She saw that dog.
right
She was
on him.
on that dog's face. Just
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And
I'll
she-
never forget that.
And she glammed onto him
Oh,
with
yeah.
her face
Oh, yeah.
and wouldn't let go. And she took off down the street with him hanging
With the cat on his back.
That's not the first time. She did it when I lived on Park Boulevard in my apartment. And there was a guy lived behind us, had a great white Pyrenees. You know how big they are?
Yeah,
She cut that poor dog to shreds. He was all white, his blood all over him. I'm going over apologizing to him. He said, "Well, my dog shouldn't have been in your yard." And I said, "Yeah, that's probably true. He's being territorial."
You won't be now again.
That was decent of him, though.
That was decent of him, yeah.
Yes.
Well, considering how many dogs kill cats,
You know, how many cats would we have at one time in there? 6?
Oh, a bunch.
A lot.
A lot.
I had to keep my bedroom door closed because they love to come in there and leave samples in my bed.
Hey, try out this sample. It tastes better than his.
She made me get the cat fixed.
Oh, yeah.
Because she went in the heat and we locked her up. She found her way out to the back of the house and we caught her shimmying down the back of the house to get out to get,
Yeah.
you know what? Yeah. And unfortunately I was able to catch her and the next day we got her in for the surgery.
That's why we're afraid of women.
No
Now we're back to the old days. The olden days, yeah.
Hey, you and your wife started it.
Adam and Eve.
Okay.
One of the things that I remember about the Bishops was that when John Holland came in and got involved, he was in a master's program at Antioch College, getting a master's degree in sexual education, counseling, and rehab or something. I don't know. You do rehab for sex? I don't know. Anyway, it was something to that, and a bunch of us went over to the National Sex and Drug Institute in San Francisco and went through their week-long program that teaching us all about sexuality and all this, human sexuality and all that. It was a great program. We really enjoyed it.
Watching 6 movies at once.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, whoa. I remember that. I remember that. Yes.
Everything that was possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I was about ready to leave about halfway through, and I said, okay, somebody talked me into staying, and I thought, okay, I'll stay. But boy, it was really hard to go through.
And some of those people in those films were proud of what they were doing. That's what really got me. I mean, the idea was to, what do you call it? Desensitizing. Boy, it sure worked.
Haven't had sex since, huh?
No, but it put a different slant on it. Definitely.
Well, somebody said a while ago, mentioned that, things that we said under our breath to a buddy now is on national TV in prime time, so it's the whole dynamics has changed around sexuality and drug abuse and drug rehab, and now then pot's legal.
So we have about
next year, right?
we have about 15 minutes of tape left, and probably less than that of battery life. I'm not sure about hers, but that's where mine is.
Well, it's still blinking like crazy.
Yeah,
here.
I know. But there's actually there's a timer and it's pretty much the same because we've had them on the same time. But I'd like to hear what we have carried with us since Bishops in terms of social justice, human potential, all the stuff that Bishops was about. At least that's what it was about to me, those things. And I would say, when I walked into Bishops, I came home for the first time. I was around people who understood me, were willing to accept me as exactly how I showed up. And I still get chills just thinking about that. And I carry that today. It's a strong memory in me. I'm a good person. I belong here. How about you?
Well, what I carry about the Bishops is that I was 31 years old when I went in there. And the hippie movement was I was ahead of it. I mean, it took some training for me to be accepted to free love and the anti-war. I was a veteran, and it took some conditioning for me to be able to accept all that was going on. But I was so aware of of the need and the loss of so many people there that without that place, I don't know what the hell would have happened to you. You know, it was so important that you have a place to just drop in and be you and listen to music and spout poetry or whatever you wanted to do, and it was all right. And that was the thing that's carried me through so far the rest of my life, is that it may not always be comfortable for me, but it's important that you have that people have the right to be them, themselves.
Okay.
Okay. And I'll second that, of course. I felt that was a place that we were allowed to be ourselves, but it took me a while to be able to do that, because my husband's the minister, and he's one who helped put this together, and I must be the little minister's wife and slap my mouth shut once in a while and keep my opinions to myself, because they might not fit in with church things. So it was a place that eventually I was able to really just open up and be myself and not have to feel like I was held back. I divorced you.
That's what you carry forward to this day?
Yeah.
How about you, Bill? What do you carry forward?
Oh, boy. All of you.
And some more.
I carry all of you forward with me. That's my takeaway. You know, it led me to Mudkin, led me to a lot of close friendships, people I still communicate with on a regular basis. It's nothing better. I went to a 20-year and a 25-year high school reunion. It was boring as hell. But I don't like to miss these, and it's, you know, it's just important. That's the only way I can describe it. It's important, and it's fulfilling, and it's enrichment. It's all those things. So all I say is thanks to everybody, because saved my bacon.
Well, I guess I can just say that it obviously was a very big benefit to Bill. And the only way I really know of the bishops is through him. But I'm sorry in a way that I didn't have a chance to get to know it better. It would have really been interesting for me, but it was still an incredible place full of neat people.
Mm-hmm.
Camera makes camera.
Hello.
I recall that I had the roots planted at the time I was in Bishop's that are flowering now. In terms of, say, free music and dance, which is a big part of my life these days, or Burning Man, I, on my nights, would put on radio music, and people say, wow, what's that? I knew the radio stations. I knew the progressive radio stations. I knew where the electronica could be found. World music. I mean, there were a few nights people would say, hey, Gerhard, could you, it's a little bit too far out. And I go, all right. But I turn the lights down low. I mean, it entered into my spirit, I think, then. The sense of, we can do it. Which was the antithetical thing to when I came back from Vietnam, which we can't do anything. I mean, we're devastated. I mean, spiritually, I was wrecked for a long time. I mean, I got very seriously wounded, and so, But anyway, those nights were just enlivening to me, and it was completing my return to society in so many ways. I welcome it. I'm connected with you now.
I didn't work at Bishop's, but I was a missionary's daughter. So I'd grown up working with people who served people, with Christians who behaved like they didn't judge. They really took care of other starving people. And then I moved to the States, I had a major separation from organized religion when I was 18. And one of the most wonderful things about the community I met at Mudkin was people who didn't have to profess anything, but who were behaving in loving, serving ways that was, while at the same time partying and having fun. And I couldn't think of anything better than to be with really, people of substance and quality who really care about other human beings who can also have a great time. It was like arriving at the perfect combination to bring me back to the spirituality that I had missed, when I left the church, and yet grounded in really serving. And the truth is, for me, there's no question that some of the greatest human beings I've ever known are people I've met through either Mudkin or people I know through Mudkin. People that, I don't pick up the phone and call you guys all the time, but as far as I'm concerned, you are, attached to me all the time. And the same too for John, and then Anna got added later, and there aren't a lot of, it's really true that in some ways this group of people is more who my real family is than the genetic family I am. And I'm still an activist. I work with the Domestic Violence and Rape Crisis Center. I'm one of the advocates and counselors that the ER calls when it's my shift. I will never not do service again because it's no longer. Until I got with this group of people, service had always been connected with a church that had an agenda other than the service. And these people didn't have that. So I don't know if that's the right thing to say. And I can't imagine I'll ever not want to do that. And I'm here this year because Harold and Glenn changed dimensions last year. And I was pretending I was still 25 and I was never going to change dimensions. But, I had to face that maybe somehow I'm going to change dimensions. Anyway, I'm no longer 25. So
yeah.
And that's
we very much appreciate you coming all the way from Lincoln, Nebraska to be here.
Thank you. It's really wonderful.
You are going to go back.
I am going. No, I'm coming to Southern California with you. She forgot to tell you.
3 minutes left on this tape.
Don't Rod McEwen comes in, I'm sorry.
Hey, John.
I got 8 minutes, so just go ahead.
Okay, I'll go to the end, John.
The Bishops was always my living room. Before I got actively in the community, it was a place that I could go from living in an apartment by myself or sharing with somebody else. A phone call would be, I'll meet you at the Bishops. That's where a lot of times, okay, let's go to a movie, let's go out to dinner, let's meet at the Bishops. Or afterwards, it was always, let's go down to the Bishops, we're going to have a cup of coffee and just hang out. And that's what that community kind of represented, and it still represents that to me today.
All right.
Julie?
I have a really strong memory of being able to find people that were family. And Mudkin's one of my earliest memories. And I feel like I worked to carry that through. Sam and I helped found a school that is parent participation, K-8, and our kids go there. And I actually got certified to teach positive discipline, and then a friend of mine and I wrote a course together to teach the parents how to interact with the kids respectfully and interact with the teachers respectfully in the classroom. And so I teach that a couple times a year as part of my service to the school, as well as just going to the classroom and working with the kids. But people that I've met through that process are really close, and it's really modeled on the template that is there in me from Mudkin, in the way that my dad was in the world.
Yeah. I don't have anything
Okay.
for Matkin or
Yeah, she married. Okay, I got 1 minute here.
Buntkin's where I met real Christians, rather than church people.
What's that?
Buntkin's where I met real Christians, people who live what I consider a Christian life. And it's also where I learned how much I like to help people and do stuff, and where I found out I didn't know what I was doing. And so I made it a point to get the training so I could be effective in helping people. And I continue to work with VA with combat veterans, and I work with American Red Cross in disaster mental health, and that stems from getting started at Bishop's.
It's been a great exercise because I realize how much, since I met Gardner, how much good fortune I've had in learning about tolerance and sharing and giving back. And a lot of people say, I want to give back, and I've had the good fortune of having a business which was very much like the Bishop's Coffeehouse. We welcome everyone. You know, you can sit there for hours, you can do nothing, you can say something, we have a piano player. And I have the good fortune of being in Rotary, where that's what we practice, is tolerance and understanding and world peace. And I also work with a nonprofit called Petaluma Bounty, where we advocate for people to be able to afford good food. So I think I've lived a very, very full life, and really thanks to Gardner for being my partner for 44 years. 46, really.
So you're still running the Coffeehouse? Just a little different.
I have a really great relative who's my assistant manager, and Nick Harris is Bill's son, so we keep it in the family.
Oh, good, good.
You got any parting words? Oh, wise one?
Oh, who, me?
It's not me.
Tape end. I'm done here.
Oh, great.
Okay, I'm not.
You're not done. Well, I think it's all been said. Everything that could happen in this group has happened time and time again, and I'm satisfied will keep on happening.
All right.
John, I've got a little more.
Okay.
Marge and I are climate warriors, which means in our part of the world, we work with a group called Transition Town. We're Transition Albany. We created it with some others. We've been recently with Transition Berkeley. We're working together quite a bit. We'll be with them tomorrow on Solano Stroll. I bring that up because the social activism component has become very strong in my life. I've become active in Veterans for Peace. Just recently, I've stepped it up. We'll also be involved with Citizens for the Citizens Climate Lobby tomorrow. Hopefully we'll have blue clothes and turquoise and pink pom-pom. They'll probably supply the corner of Fresno and Solano. There'll be 500,000 people there. Wow. They'll also be meeting at the top at the Oak Theater with a table where we'll advocate for Albany Hill and our restoration projects, which have gone on for over 30 years since our kids were this little, which we continue to this day. Reforesting, revegetating Albany Hill. We have a big community garden where Marge was early this morning. We're big activists with our solar oven, always in front of our house. Dozens of people in the course of a week will come by and say, what's cooking today? We've got a program in Transition called Streets, where you work with your neighbors and you become very climate
oriented and peak oil oriented, so as you can have a better life by sharing things. That's transition. Transition is growing large, faster outside the United States by far. We had our first national conference. We were unable to go because we were on a backpack, the eastern side of the Sierra, 10,000 feet, with our friends that we've gone with on this backpacking trip for 30 years. There'll be a regional gathering in Hopland at the Solar Institute of all the transition towns, mostly Northern California, and the permaculturalists, who are the chief underpinning. Something, John, I'm sure you, with your scientific background, you've got, this is a technocratic world. We've got to deal with climate issues. We've got to do it in an informed scientific way.
Yeah.
With leadership of people from your university backgrounds, but also buoyed up by people, the regular citizens who care so vitally about the planet we're handling down. So anyway, I want to really testify to those continuing influences in my life. And we do these things in churches. The meal program where we fed with the mayor of Albany, one of our mayors who's part of transition, started it with us about 7 years ago. We fed timed out foster youth on a church on the university where basically they're homeless. They can't stay in home. They can't stay in foster care. And so, if it weren't for this church who puts out pallets and beds for them and a meal program, both dinners and breakfast, year round now, marched it for 3 years or more till they finally kind of started running out of gas. A number of people died and moved to Northern California. But up until last year, we're still doing that. And other things. Our potluck with a purpose at St. Ambrose, another church. I can mention a couple other churches where these things take place to this day. Not necessarily led by the church, but facilitated by the church.
Yeah.
And that's the part, I think, the larger spiritual realm that we're all informed by, whether we're Christians or Buddhists, as in my case. Anyway, I wanted to get that on tape too, John.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.